So next we have Ms. Jennifer Apodaca. She is from the Detained Migrant Solidarity Committee. Ms. Jennifer Apodaca is a liberation activist who is building the community to practice solidarity with detained immigrants, challenging the inhumanity of the U.S. migration detention system. It practices policies by holding a visible presence and raising awareness of abuses in our community. And they also organize, educate, and act for more humane policies, practices, and public opinion on migrant detention, dedicating their collective effort to nurturing a safe and welcoming community for all, regardless of borders. This is for the Detained Migrant Solidarity Committee, and we have Ms. Jennifer Apodaca speaking.
Hello everyone, how are you? My day job, I am a teacher. So thank you all for coming here to engage in this teaching against child detention. But before I begin, my colleagues at the Fronterizo Fianza Fund asked me to make a quick shameless plug about an organization that we set up, which is a Fronterizo Fianza Fund. Their table right there. About a year ago, we set up a bond fund, a community bond fund, to help free detained migrants in detention who had bonds that they could not pay. One of the first cases of family separation, we were the testing ground for a lot of these inhumane policies in the United States that involve immigrant families, occurred here, and we paid the bond of a mother who was separated from her son. That was one of the first bonds that we paid. Since then, we've freed over 50 people in our community who have families in the communities that you come from, all across the United States. So if you have a chance, please share our page, Fronterizo Fianza Fund, with your friends and community to help free more people from detention. That being said, yes, it is true. The principles of the Detained Migrant Solidarity Committee are centered on abolitionist values. We seek to end all forms of immigrant and mass incarceration in our communities. But what affects migrant families and communities is much more than a mass incarceration or migrant detention. So instead of treating you all as empty vessels in which I'm going to deposit information, I want you to think and listen and think about the ways in which our communities beyond detention affect the lives of those who are marginalized, those who come from immigrant communities, those who are affected by racial discrimination and environmental racism. So one of the other principles of the Detained Migrant Solidarity centers in its core values is to center the folks who are directly impacted by our immigration policies. So I'm about to hand the microphone to a wonderful woman who's on the frontline battles to defend her community, a school here in El Paso, Texas, that is under siege, under threat of closure. She is fighting for her community. Her name is Hilda Villegas, and she's with Familias, Unidas, and Chamizal of the Mujer Obrera. So please, I ask you to listen and think about the other ways in which these policies our country has, that have existed in our countries that affect our communities in horrible ways, and think about how you can support this group of strong fighting women in their battle to save their school, which has a large number of immigrant families. So with that being said, Hilda.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share a few words with you teachers. I think it is important to evaluate how immigration is affecting communities as a whole. Right now, with all the issues of immigration and the migrant families and the children that are being detained, I feel that sometimes the battles that we have here within immigrant communities and families are sometimes overlooked. It is important in our battle to save our school because families in the barrio are defending barrio education and their right to be able to define what that education is. Right now, immigrant children in barrio Chamizal are casualties of EPISD's financial stewardship process. That means that historically, children in the barrio, especially immigrant children, have been disregarded and put aside. They have always looked to our communities to reduce cost And we're talking about families of children, they can least afford that cost. Historically, our barrio schools have been underfunded by EPISD. EPISD has given us very little resources throughout the years, and that has hurt the education of the children that are considered Title I children. Our children, our schools rank the highest in the numbers of in regards to Title I, which means we have the highest English language learners, we have the highest economically disadvantaged children, and we also have the highest at risk. With that said, when they do these cuts, it's not equally distributed throughout EPISD. They overburden schools like ours, and it's not correct. Right now, the battle that we have in terms of saving our school is that we were against school closures. I feel that under no circumstances were school closures supposed to be justified, especially in communities that have to do with immigrant children. I think that the share of that cost should have been distributed throughout EPISD because EPISD is losing kids throughout the district. But I feel that because we are immigrant families, we have 40%, we have 8,000 people in our Chamizal. There's 40% foreign born. 56% have little to no English, which means that these demographics, these conditions make us more vulnerable to these actions. At this point, what EPISD did, they tore an entire community apart. They ripped our heart out, which is Bell Elementary. And they're dividing our community. They're turning teachers and families against each other just because they think they can get away with it. So we're promoting and we're calling out a movement of civil rights for Barrio Chamizal families. And we're asking support from anyone that are in the battle of saving or protecting immigrant children. Because it is important to not just evaluate the families, but also evaluate our communities. Because we need communities to be able to protect these families. Thank you.
Hey!